Hello ladies and gents, this is another video brought to you by Ants Hood, and today I'll be introducing their video with my Messor Barbarus, but I'm also going to talk about Messor Aciculatus and my Messor Arenarius. But that's going to be a super quick sneak peek because I don't want her to get overly stressed and eat a young or die. But anyway, let's crack on with the Messor Barbarus. I originally ordered a Messor bicolor with a couple of workers if memory serves, but it was a bit of a glitch on the website. Ants HQ contacted me because that's where I got them from and said, we haven't got any workers, but we'll send you 2 queens instead, or you can get your money back. And I was like, well, let's have 2 queens. So I did. So this is a Messor Barbarus bicolor. Now what makes it bicolor is the fact that it's got a slightly red head and a black body. So it's 2 colours, hence bicolor. Now from my information, and I may stand corrected on this, no other mess has this bicolorness that I'm aware of, but I may stand corrected. Now, Messor Barbarus are kind of seen as a beginner-friendly species, and that's because their requirements are fairly easy to look after. The nest temperature is 21 to 26 degrees, and the humidity is around 50 to 70%, which isn't too difficult to get at normal room temperature. They will live in most ant setups providing the humidity is right, and the humidity's got to be key because if it's too humid, then the seeds that they collect will start germinating, and then you're in a world of pain trying to pull out seedlings that have started to germinate in the nest. Not ideal. Now they collect these seeds, which is unlike a lot of other ants, and they grind it up, and they grind it up into this so-called ant bread, and they feed the ant bread to both the young and other adults. So it's kind of unique in the arts that it provides the carbohydrates for the adults because that's what they need to live, and it also provides the protein for the queens and the brood to grow. With that in mind, it's a really good idea that as soon as they start getting workers, you attach a small outworld to it. Then you can put the seeds in here and the workers can pick and choose what seeds they want to take back to the test tube rather than just cramming seeds into the test tube they're not necessarily going to use. It also gives you a really good avenue to give them honey water if you choose to, or some protein yorts of cockroaches like I use. But by far the biggest advantage of this is that Messor queens particularly, but most ants, are really skittish when they're in the test tubes, and if you have to start pulling out the end of it, sticking food in there, it stresses them out. This way they've got a more natural avenue to feed naturally without giving them the stress factor. Now you may ask yourself, why have I got foil over this nest when I've got a red filter on it? And that's because messors can still see in the red spectrum. So that basically means a red fill like this does not work and it will still stress your queen out. And as I said before, Messor queens are super skitty until they get a decent sized workforce, maybe 30 plus. Up to that point, the slightest bit of vibrations will set them off. And if it's your first time keeping these and they're just in a test tube setup, the likelihood is she'll eat a brood. As you can see, this is the Venus setup by Wakushi. I did do a review on this one, so check out the top right corner now. Now messors can live exclusively off the seeds they collect by grinding up into the ant bread I talked about before. But I would still recommend giving them some form of insect protein, like here I give them cockroaches, fruit flies, mealworms, whatever you choose, because I've noticed that these guys have, my Barbarus that is, have grown a lot quicker than my Messor Aciculatus, which you'll see later, which have pretty much lived exclusively off seeds themselves. So I would recommend having that outworld. I would recommend putting insects in there and also honey water or some variant of carbohydrates. Now these are really beginner friendly, but there are some points that you need to remember. One, they're very skittish in the foundation stage, and if you disturb them too much, they will eat the brood. Attach an outworld as soon as you can so you can feed them without overly stressing the queen. Red filters do not work with these ants, so you really need to have a blackout lid for them. Give them a good variety of seeds because they won't necessarily attack the stronger, tougher ones until you get the majors with the stronger jaws. It does say to hibernate these ants, but from my experience of messors, they won't always need to. I will talk a little bit more when I sum up my messors at the end of the video, but now I want to move on to my Messor Aciculatus. Now if you check out my history with this species, last year I got them at the start of the season, but unfortunately, unbeknownst to me, the water ran out and I killed them off. But Ants Davey was nice enough to send me a replacement 2 Queen Conley, which was bang on. If we forget about that little newbie mistake I did, they are relatively easy to look after. Their heat requirements aren't too bad. They're about 23 to 27. Some sources differ slightly, but that's about give or take the middle area. And their outworld around 20 to 28. Yet again, some variation, nothing crazy. And the humidity being around 50 to 70% in the nest. Unlike a lot of messors, Aciculatus are more than happy to have more than 1 queen, which is great because I always like that reassurance if 1 queen does pop a clogs, then I've got another queen to keep the colony going. So it's a bit of a rarity amongst messors, but these guys can pull it out of the bag. Now, a lot of sources say messors generally have only 70% plus of their diet on seeds, but these ladies are pretty much exclusively on seeds. I don't know why, but they don't really take these carbohydrates I provide for them, and they do from time to time take the protein such as cockroaches and stuff, but not very often. They seem to be more than happy in existing in their test tube, even though they have got an outworld attached to it. But that might be just because they're still in the foundation stage and a bit skittish to come out. But looking at the numbers from this video, I'm probably pushing 30 plus workers now, which means they're at that tipping point where they're going to get from foundation to a stable population. You might be asking why I've not moved them into a nest yet, and because I don't think they really need it yet. There is still water in a test tube. The water's not gone a funky colour, so it's doing all right. The cotton wool does look a bit minging, but they're happy. They've got a good sized brood, I think, by looking at the videos. They've got a good sized brood, so I'm going to keep them there for now. They haven't got any majors yet, but I can't imagine it'll be much longer now before they do start pumping out majors, so looking forward to that one. Now, I did say about messors not necessarily wanting to hibernate, and these are the ones that really weren't interested in it. They gave all the signs that were looking to hibernate. I put them in a cool place around 15 degrees, my downstairs toilet, and they still became active. I mean, they settled down a little bit for about 6 weeks, and after the 6 weeks, they're like, nah, we're bored now, let's go out and do some stuff. So I did keep feeding them just in case they took it, and they did. So these are the reasons why I say sometimes messors hibernate, sometimes they don't. It's really up to them. Just so you can see the setup, this is their outworld, and in the tunnel they've put all the seed detritus to block up the hole a little bit to make them more comfortable. Can't say I'm bothered by that. It's not as if it's protein, it's going to go all mouldy and minging. From my experience, the points to remember about these is pretty much the same as the Messor Barbarus, so I'm not going to go over it again. Now, the next messor is pretty exciting, to be fair. It's Messor Arenarius. I think I pronounced that right. Now, this is going to be an introduction, not a full-blown care video, but that will come once I get workers. But I'm going to talk about some of the impressive features of these monsters. Believe it or not, she was actually gifted to me by a friend who bought her off Ants Davy. Check out the website and the link. Now, yes, she's fairly beginner friendly, to be honest. She's a bit more robust than your standard Messor Barbarus, but she comes with a hefty price tag. Now, it varies from different website to different website, but you're looking around an average of 180 quid-ish. So she's not beginner friendly for that reason. Because if you're a beginner, if you've got the cash, fair play. But if you're a beginner, you don't want to fork out X amount of money and then have the queen die on you, because that's a big loss. And I am scared to death of losing this queen. So this is why I've only got a little bit of footage, because I don't want to disturb her too much and stress her out and let her eat that nice brood pile she's got there, or end up her dying. So I'll leave her be and haven't filmed her much, so excuse for reusing footage, okay? But it's not often I do that, but I kind of need to when I'm talking about this queen. So you might want to ask yourself, why do I want to pay 20 times more than for a Barbarus for this queen? Well, let me tell you, she is huge. Apparently she's the second largest known messor species in the world, and the only large species that I know that you can find readily available to keep in the UK. So you might be asking, well, how big is she, Hood? Well, let me tell you. She is 18 to 20 millimeters in size, when the average Messor Barbarus is 14 to 17 millimeters. Her workers are 5 to 14 millimeters compared to the Barbarus's 3 to 9 millimeters. That's over half a centimeter bigger. And the majors are 15 to 18 millimeters compared to the majors from the Barbarus from 9 to 14 millimeters. The sizes are mind-boggling. I mean, to compare the sizes, we're talking like Campanota sizes, but for a Messor. She's huge, and her workers are huge. Now, as you can imagine, because she's such a large species, she's got relatively slow growth for a colony, but they can still get to like 10,000 strong, 7,000 to 10,000 depending where you look. So she can still be as big in size, colony-wise, as a Messor Barbarus. Now, that perspective kind of scares me a little bit, because we're talking like a Campanota species that can get to 10,000. You need a lot of space. So when she gets fully going and fully developed and stable and stuff and starts pumping out eggs like some egg-laying machine, I am going to have trouble finding space for her. But oh well, she's worth it. Now, if we look here, you can see that the water is like danger low, but I'm not massively concerned per se. Normally, if she still had a while to go for workers, I'll be pooing my pants, but luckily she's got some workers that are darkening off, and they're darker than what they are in this picture now. So they should be around in the next couple of days, which means they will be able to move her to a new test tube when I connect it up. So, lucky escape. Now, from what I've read, messors have a tendency to want to commit suicide in open water. So if you've got any liquid you want to feed them, make sure you use liquid feeders like these. These are the ones that I make. They come in packs of 6. If you're interested in getting some, by all means, message me on Instagram or Facebook and I'll get back to you. Well, that's it for today then, guys. Now I've finished shamelessly pushing my product. For both my Messor Aciculatus and my Messor Arenarius, I will be doing individual care videos for those guys. But at the moment, they don't come out of the test tube, so they're pretty boring to film. But once I get a bit more active, expect them to come. But thanks for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it today. I look forward to seeing my next one, and bye-bye for now.